It all started some 50 years ago. Eager to find a solution that would perform better than a century-old Swiss leather escapement, George Daniels designed the Co-Axial escapement. Today, it is the only other escapement produced at industrial scale. The Co-Axial escapement is now at the heart of the vast majority of Omega's watches, and it is a key element in meeting the brand's superlative quality standards, including the Master Chronometer certification.
What's fantastic about the story of Co-Axial and Omega is that it was like a perfect fit. But what is fantastic about it is that the perfect fit was not given from the beginning. If we go into the details of the Co-Axial, you have George Daniels, this incredible and master watchmaker who had a great idea. Don't forget that when we talk about Co-Axial, we're talking about a revolution in the watchmaking industry. And that revolution was not just a small detail. It was all about the precision. It was all about the heart of any mechanical watches, which is the escapement. And on the other side, there was Omega. And I think that Omega is exactly the brand that was and is the brand for innovation. It's in the DNA of Omega to go for new technology, for precision, and to have the curiosity, finally, to bring the watch industry in terms of production to a next level. And very honestly, without the coaxial escapement technology being put into our movements, we wouldn't have been able to go to the next level, which is master chronometer technology and master chronometer certification, which is another revolution in the whole of the watch industry. Indeed, Omega, getting its name from the famous 99 calibers, had in its DNA this exact ability to go for the highest level, to go for the precision, but not only in terms of vision, also obviously in terms of ability to do that. And one of the biggest secrets of having coaxial today as one of the incredibly and most respected revolution in the watchmaker industry of the 20th century is to have George Daniels on one side, Mr. Hayek Sr. on the other side, and the Omega brand, which was like the third incredible part. That was the most important because it was about bringing this revolution in terms of highest quality, highest precision to many people around the world. And this is why coaxial is for me the story of an incredible vision that was shared by two geniuses, but that was also like done for the most dynamic watch brand in the watch industry today, which is Omega.
We are here at the Omega Museum, and one thing that I would like to stress for all of you is that revolution means also development, because you cannot just revolutionize something just like that. And this development harks back to historic times. It harks back to the beginning of the last century and to the chronometer competitions at the observatories, where, as you might know, Omega has achieved countless world records and set countless amazing world records, like in 1936 at the Kew Teddington Observatory in England, a record that in its class remains still unbroken today. But what does it all mean? It means basically that within our pioneering spirit, we always had this idea that if we can develop something for a specific purpose, in this case evidently for watchmaking precision, immense precision, that it should at some point be developed into something that customers, clients and friends of the brand can actually wear. So it doesn't make sense for us to win and to set all these records, but in the end of the day, we don't give back something to watchmaking and to its clients. So basically, all these developments, all these movements, all these escapements, because mind you, we have developed also other escapements in the past or worked on versions, variations of them, like the Grasshopper escapement that we did a pocket watch prototype on a redeveloped one that's called Jacquard escapement. And then in the 1930s, with the introduction of the 30mm legendary movement, we used that as a base to create a legendary, let's call it a Formula One movement. You can see those movements here. Basically, They had developments in them that ensured better power reserve, more constant rate, and all this ensured perfect, amazing precision and world records that were set. And all these things, they trickled down at some point into a commercial development. And of course, all this leads to 1999 and the George Daniels coaxial revolution. That's the development that we're trying to share with you. Coaxial has an incredible place in watchmaking, was a huge change, is a revolution, but the revolution has a real background, and this background at Omega is the heritage of development.
The escapement is the heart of every timepiece. It consists of the pallet fork and the escapement wheel. It is the most vital part of the caliber, and it distributes the energy into regular impulses and therefore dividing or even making time. It is fitted at the end of the gear train. The two functions of any escapement could be the coaxial escapement, but also could be the Swiss lever escapement, are lock and unlock the gear train. This is for the first function. And the second one is to receive and transmit impulses. Here you see a large-scale model of the coaxial escapement from the last generation as it is implemented in our Omega master coaxial calibers. It features 5 rubies, 4 pallets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 impulse pin. The two main functions of the coaxial escapement are divided into the 4 pallets. The pallets number 1 and number 3 are responsible for locking and unlocking the gear train. The other 2 pallets, the number 4 and number 2, receive and transmit the impulses to the regulating organ through the balance roller. If we do a comparison with the Swiss lever escapement, both pallets have to perform both functions. So thanks to the ingenious conception of the coaxial escapement, the friction is reduced tremendously thanks to much smaller contact surfaces and impulses which are transmitted by the teeth of the coaxial wheel pushing on the side of the pallet instead of rubbing up against the angled surface of the pallets like in the Swiss lever escapement. Less friction means less wear and tear, but also less lubrication, which has been drastically reduced in comparison with the Swiss lever escapement. All this improvement result in the coaxial escapement remaining accurate and functional for much longer than the Swiss lever escapement. The service intervals can be extended. Usually, we advise a service every 7 to 8 years with a coaxial escapement instead of 4 to 5 years with the Swiss lever escapement.
The story starts in '93 when George Daniels meets after he went to Zenith, he went to Rolex and Patek, and people didn't believe in the coaxial. He went to Mr. Hayek, and Mr. Hayek immediately thought, with all the chronometric performance that Omega had in the past, coaxial is for them. And we started to develop that. It was not really easy because people, they didn't really believe in coaxial. It was too complicated. We had the Swiss anchor since 200 years, so why coming with something new? But at the end, we achieved it. In 1997, we had the green light for industrialization because the lab tests were fine. The movement had no lubrication, as George Daniels did on his prototype. But 1 year before the launch, in 1998, we had problems on wearing test watches. And we had to decide to put some lubrication on the escapement. So the first watches, when we launched them in 1999, we had a yellow gold watch, limited to 999 pieces, a red gold or pink gold watch, limited to also 999 pieces, and a platinum one, limited to 99 pieces. That was the first launch of Co-Axial at Omega. In the year 2000, we had to launch the collection, but the product was not 100% industrialized. So we did another limited edition, this time in white gold, also in a Deauville collection, limited to 999 pieces. We knew that the Co-Axial with the test was much better in accuracy than the traditional Swiss anchor, and you had also a better stability of precision during the years. In 2001, we are ready to launch the Co-Axial escapement in the Omega collection, and we do it in a Deauville with also a bracelet that is inspired from a constellation of the late 60s. Fantastic bracelet, I think. So we are not only introducing the caliber 2500, but also the 2627, that is a power reserve small second, and the 2628, it's a GMT caliber. So this is really the beginning of introduction of Co-Axial in our marvelous collection. The same year, I have to say, we have the test results from a watch magazine called Chronos, and we have a very good note, but there is a minus. A minus, they say that the Co-Axial is really fantastic, but it's in a ETA movement, the 1120, so I had to go to Mr. Hayek just after the launch of the collection with these three movements to him, and he gave me the green light to do a manufacture movement of Omega. So the year 2002 is coming, and there we introduce the Co-Axial escapement in a new Aquaterra. It's a new watch in the Seamaster collection, and we come out also with the first chronograph with Co-Axial in the collection Deauville. 2004, here we switch from 4 Hz to 3.5 Hz on the movements, and we do that with new watches. We do it in a James Bond. The Seamaster Diver has an upgrade with Co-Axial escapement in 2004, and we do also a Deauville with a big date. We do a Deauville with small second, so enlarging the collection again. 2005, I think it's a very important year because we introduce Planet Ocean in the Seamaster collection with this famous orange bezel. We had a big success with this product back 15 years ago already. So you remember I told you that in 2001, Omega had the green light to do the manufacture movement, and the collection is ready in 2007, so 6 years of development to have a brand new movement in the Omega collection. And this movement will go on again later on in all the Omega collection. So the watch is again a Deauville, but we call it our vision because the watch has an opening on the side where you can even see the movement. Of course, a transparent back to show the beauty of the movement.
In 2007, we came out with the Omega's first in-house coaxial movement, which was the next stage in the revolution. We actually created from scratch a totally new caliber around the new design coaxial escapement, which can be considered as the second generation. The coaxial wheel was designed with 3 levels, offering a clear separation of impulse and rest functions.
2008, we introduced the silicone hairspring in an annual calendar and also in a ladies' watch. 2011, at Basel Fair, there is something special that will happen to Omega. It's Mr. Hayek Jr. who asked me, Mr. Monochrome, if you need a new movement, what would you do? And I immediately give him the answer, I would do a movement that is anti-magnetic. So he said, okay, go for it, but I want something very incredible. So I had to ask people from sister companies of Swatch Group at CDNP, at Azulab, at ETA, at Mivarox, and we had a brainstorming. And I told them I want a watch that goes to 15,000 Gauss. In addition, I want to see the movement from the back, and I want the date. And there they told me, you are really, really crazy. But I think saying that to the guys, I want to see the movement and I want to have a date, it opened their minds. They were not talking of a Faraday cage. And at the first meeting, one guy said, we have to do the components anti-magnetic. And that's what we did. And 2 years later, already, we came with the first anti-magnetic watch at Omega, in an Aquaterra with this famous second hand in yellow and in black as the symbol of something dangerous. You don't have to go for magnetism.
In 2013 came out the big bang in the watch industry with the first ever anti-magnetic movement resisting up to 15,000 Gauss. The design of the coaxial escapement remains the same, but the materials and the different alloys for producing the escapement were different. Instead of protecting the movement by the magnetic field with the Faraday's cage, we decided to replace the most sensitive ferrous component, the spring, with the silicone Si14. We also changed the material for the two spring of the Niva shock, which is actually the shock absorber of the balance wheel. We used a special amorphous metal alloy. Thanks to the Liga technology, we changed all the plates of the coaxial escapements in nickel phosphorus, but also the plate of the regulating organ. And finally, all the staff were made with the Niva Gauss alloy.
2015, Mr. Hayek came to us and said, but okay, you have something incredible, you have anti-magnetism, but nobody knows about it. We have to find a way to communicate and maybe to have a certification. We were thinking and said, let's do a certification that is not done by Omega, but by company that can certify watches. So we went to METAS, the Swiss Federal Institution of Metrology, and we made specific criteria to measure the watch. So each watch that has this master chronometer certification is individually tested, severe test done by METAS. And the first collection, or the first model, appears in 2015 in a Constellation Globemaster. Now we are in the year 2020, and of course some watches that came out recently. Here you have this famous Seamaster Aquaterra called Ultralight, because the watch is very, very light, with a movement that we made in titanium. Another model that I'm proud to show you is the Co-Axial escapement introduced in the Constellation. So Constellation with the claws, the half moon, the Roman numerals, was born in 1982. And there was a famous model with an aluminium bezel that was covered by a sapphire glass. So we wanted to take the look of this bezel again on a Constellation. But of course it's not aluminium, it's ceramic. To show you how far we went with this coaxial, we even put it in a tourbillon, and this tourbillon is also master chronometer certified. So I'm very proud of this model. It's a hand-winding tourbillon, also the back of the watch. I think really it's absolutely amazing and beautiful. So 2020, how are we going on with coaxial? Coaxial is now even present in the famous moon watch. We had the Apollo 11 limited edition in steel of 69 pieces, and the gold version in moonshine gold with 1114 watches that had a coaxial escapement and that were also certified by METAS. So what is left at Omega without coaxial? The quartz watches, of course. And we still have two products that we will lift. It's in the Deville Prestige, the first improved, of course, first 2500 caliber that was introduced in 1999, and this will come by the end of 2022. Another watch is the Speedmaster 38 for ladies. This is a coaxial caliber, but it's not master chronometer yet.